Right, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about two things. Let's do a Western All-Pro and then altogether a Tournament All-Pro. This is strictly based off of performance so far, which of course is going to be very spotty because some players have played more games, some players have played less games, some players have played against specific opponents and less opponents. So obviously it's going to be a little bit spotty. I think that we can start with the All-Pro for Westerners. Let's start with top lane. I think Whipple is one that stands out. I think that he was quite essential in the series against G2. I think he showed up. Obviously, the series against Anyone's Legend, he tried to do like Mordekai's counter and so forth. I think that it was close from working. I feel like the Western top lane pool hasn't been like super exciting here. I think that the situation with, you know, we have 3 top laners here at this event that have a very specific champion pool, and they get away with that champion pool regionally because they play counters and prepare counters against champions that other people play, which give them an edge regionally. I think most of the time that is what works. We saw Mirwin, of course, drop a game of Irelia, which was pretty damn solid. I think his Aatrox performance, Rumble performance, like staple champions are where those performances just weren't good enough for me to put him above Whipple. And then finally, Broken Blade. Broken Blade, I think that he warmed up a little bit to the tournament as things went on, but I do think that he was extremely disappointing. Aatrox was also something that stood out. I think early on in the tournament, even in play-ins, like I think Bin was the best top laner in play-ins, but I think that Kiaya was way better than Broken Blade as example. I think this was a very, very rough showing for Broken Blade. I think he warmed up to things a little bit later, but it was far too late. It doesn't help as well that G2 is completely dysfunctional as a team, and I think that BB is a part of that, right? Like everybody else. I think that, you know, the line between counter picks working and being good and then solo losing you the game, and it's something that you choose to dance on, while the other top laners are playing more staples, like for example Flandre or Keen. They have mastered that super hard, especially Keen. And if your counter doesn't help, doesn't do anything, then it is what it is, you know. Let's talk about jungle. I've already mentioned that I think that before the tournament I thought Inspired was the best Western player. I think also it's still true. I think Inspired has been really good. I think he's been phenomenal. I think he just has such a good range of play. I think that he's very snappy with the way he engages. I think that win against AL was a very impressive performance from FlyQuest altogether. Because I do think the fight selection and how they pull the trigger when they need to is really something that stands out. I think you know, that definitely deserves a shout. Next in line, I think it's just Elioya. Even though I think Elioya, by his standard, I think that he had a disappointing tournament. I don't think that. I think there were games where I was hoping for him to do more, but also in the sole win against CFO, it was the Poppy Rel game. That's where we got to see like the Elioya Alvaro engine play together, and I think that's you know, good and positive. I think he had some few moments against Billy, but all in all, I thought that Elioya was, you know, underwhelming at this event. I had higher expectations for Elioya. And then finally, Scumond, I think he landed kind of where I expected him. In the end, you know, Scumond as a player, he is on his first year. I think the parallels, you know, in terms of where the meta is and who your opposition is, it's very important that when you make that comparison. I do think that, like, for example, Yike was fine the first MSI they played, even though, like, they don't get much about the lettering. It's just 1, 2, 3, really. There's no tier lists, so we can just delete the row, like it's not really a lettering, you know. So it makes more sense. It has nothing to do with the lettering. This is just an order. So back to Scumond, it's like Yike had a very fine first MSI, but also that MSI had a very simple meta. There was no fearless, and it was about playing the tank junglers, and it was very streamlined and easy. And I think it was in Yike's wheelhouse. But Scumond played at a tournament where all the junglers are literally demons. You think about the top junglers, Owner, Tarzan, Canyon, of course. You Beishwan, sure, he was a slot in late for Bilibili, but even the teams from LCP sent Levi and, of course, Junjia. So Skimon had a rough tournament. I think that in terms of like his early clears, in terms of securing himself when he plays a weaker matchup, I think he does that pretty damn well. And I think that's a strength. I think in terms of pulling the trigger and playing together with his teammates, this is where he's suffering. And the leads that he got in some games regionally was just never replicated here at this event. And I think it was a bit of a flaw. There were moments where Skimon completely lost his mind on Nunu and Afiri, which are hard to forget. But I think that Skimon as a player deserves a bit of grace, a bit of grace. I think that Skimon is a player that will have a decent future in the league. And I don't think this is a player that you want to like discard. I do think that Skimon should still be in the league. And I think that there is redeemable qualities there. The main thing that he's lacking is his flow in terms of tuning into teammates' ideas. They need to do like way deeper individual reviews, and maybe Skimon needs to study VODs instead of playing so much solo queue, because mechanically he's decent, but a little bit too afraid and a little bit too rigid in his gameplay to be centered around him as a jungler. Mid lane, I think Caps is the number one guy. I think Caps had moments where he got caught or died or whatever, but I do sympathize with the situation of Caps, where he's a player that wants to, win the game or die standing, Like, he is not going to fold. And I think that most, progress that the G2 did, I think, was through the hands of Caps. I think that as a Western mid laner, I think that he performed very well. He had to drag them over the finish line. If you just look at the game 5s that he played, even in play-ins, he was super good. I think that in the match against Genji, the own game was also phenomenal. I think even in the series against FlyQuest, I think Caps was much better than Quad. And I think that Caps deserves praise for that. Next in line, I think this is where it gets a little bit trickier because I think Jojopyun against Bilibili was pretty damn solid. But then how he played against CFO, he got solo killed left and right, and he just was straight up liability. It's very hard to rate him. I feel like Quad has been a passenger. I think Quad has had very good Orianna games, but Jojopyun had a good performance against Bilibili. I think Quad also, like Quad's Orianna and Rise, those are the games that I like from Quad. And I think everything else is kind of like meh, I think it's kind of meh. And I think that, still Jojopyun's performance is just, I don't know, that CFO performance is tough to bite down on. So Jojopyun's going to be moved to 3, even though I think he was pretty damn solid against, of course, Bilibili. Talia game, he got soul killed twice, and I think Honkyu just completely wiped the floor with him. And I think that they couldn't really find entries in the game, like that Dion game. He just got completely blasted by Azir and Kaiwing on Leona. While Quad, I think just his Orianna Rise games are good. Everything else, I think, might be a problem. For example, if I'm looking at FlyQuest versus Bilibili and I'm doing some kind of a conversation and breakdown in regards to that, I do think that, these solo lanes might be a point of entry, even though, Bin's performance is not at an all-time high. I do think that Knight and Bin is going to be the toughest thing to overcome for FlyQuest. And now in terms of bot lanes, let's take a look. I think support is a little bit easier for me in my mind. I think that Alvaro, as a player, I think he was quite standout. I think that he found good angles in certain parts of the series. Like, people are going to say, well, look at that combo he did on Azir to push Azir into the team. Like, I'm not going to judge his entire, I'm not going to judge his entire, tournament based off of that. I think the other one, of course, is Busio. Busio has had, like, occasional lane issues, occasional, situation where he gets caught out, but then at the same time he has very, very high highs. He's really embodying the spirit of being like a support, where he plays on the edge and plays a very, very high risk game. Like, Like Busio, in the same game that he 1v9'd with Bard, was also a game where he got 2v2 slammed killed because Bard was just not optimized as a pick there into the rel. But then it just paid off big time. I think Busio mechanically is super good. I think Busio, still the lane with Maso is like the question mark, but I think here you can go either way. I think it's just a question of flavoring, you know. I think it's just a question of flavoring. I think Alvaro can get up there. I think it's not crazy, you know. I think it just depends on your taste here. And then I think Labrov is for sure on 3. I think that he had, you know, against Genji, he kind of grew some balls, but a little bit too late. And then I think in game 1, Alistar against Fly, I think he was all right. But a little bit too shriveled up in the gameplay, you know. And I think that there's criticism to put towards Alvaro from that series against CFO. There were certain situations he could play better. You know, I'm fine whatever you want to put here, honestly. Like, I don't even mind leaving them together up there. In terms of AD across the board wasn't super great. I think Masu had like a very good Varus game, 2 good Senna games. I think Masu got caught out a little bit more than I'm used to. I think Masu and Busio weren't super consistent in lane either, but it's not like I can say that about the other ADs either. I thought Super had like a fine tournament, but definitely in the CFO series, that's like the rough one that really degrades, you know, the performance of the MKOI players. I think Masu in that game 4 zigs as well. Yeah, there are certain mistakes that these two guys did that are like, I think their ceiling is definitely the highest, but they definitely had some crazy mistakes, and I think it's important to highlight them. And I guess this is somewhat where we land. I feel like this is somewhere where we land. You know, I think Super had one of the best Kalista games out of any Kalista. But I think this would be like the Western tier list for players. I think this is very reasonable. I think the only place you can maybe do some arguing, I think that this is, you know, this is where maybe Super could get an argument, Alvaro could get an argument, but everything else I think is, you know, very, very locked in stone, I think. Someone linked this. I saw this earlier and I thought it's pretty funny. So this is just a performance chart for all the G2 players. So we had GPM at 9, gold difference, XP difference, CS difference. The performance really, really rough. Only first blood percentage was high here for you know, BB, which is of course a completely fake stat because it came from a series where first blood happened in every game. These are some horrible, horrible stats. I'm not a big stat Andy, but I do think that these kind of highlight, you know, the issue, especially in jungle as well. It's like you have CS differential at 15. You're ahead on CS, ahead on XP, but your damage per minute is the lowest. Your KDA, kill participation, is the lowest. I think that's a crazy... that's just a nutty. Like, it just encompasses exactly some of the problems and the playstyle of Skimont, in my opinion. It's truly magnificent in that regard, you know. It's truly magnificent. Middle, bro, XP diff at 15, you know, this is a PvP role. CS per minute, third, CS diff at 15 too. This is a tournament with some great mid laners, but at the same time, I have to also say that a lot of these stats also padded by the fact that you go through play-ins. Like, Caps also was farming both Ares and Emo, and I think that's important to highlight. You know, I don't want it to be completely dishonest. And that's the context of this too, is that if you manage to be like 10th, this is after playing you legit played 13 games in play-ins. Or is this main event? It does say main event, so maybe I'm wrong. It could be main event. Well, it says main event, so I could be wrong on my assessment actually. If it's main event, because I'm just looking because there's 9 and 10. Because how can there be 10? There's like driver rest makes 9. Like we only have 8 teams in the main event. So that's why I assumed it's MSI as a whole. So it's a little bit confusing because there's 9 top laners. There's 9 top laners. Let's continue. So this is mid. Oh. Oh. Jesus. Jesus Christ. Bro. Jesus, it's worse than I thought. Oh. Oh, man. Ooh. Damn. It's even worse than I thought. Yeah, we're going to do a complete dissection, guys. Complete dissection of European League of Legends. But I will leave that till MSI is over. We still have MSI to be excited about. There's still 6 teams in the tournament. MSI is still not over. This is gonna keep us well fed between, of course, what's next, you know? It's gonna keep us very well fed. Let's reset this again and let's talk about the tournament, right? Like let's put everybody. This is only isolated to the tournament, right? Because people might get surprised. I'm not gonna put Chovy so high, but it doesn't mean that I rate him lower as a player or don't expect him to play insane. This is based off of my assessment of the performance of the players at this tournament so far. Keep in mind, they played against different players, they played against different matchups, and they have played a varied amount of games, which of course matters, right? Of course matters. Let's start with top lane. I think that Keen was phenomenal. I think Keen is in the conversation of MVP at this tournament. I think Keen has been absolutely insane. I think Keen has been tremendous. Absolutely crazy how good he is. Insanely well-rounded. I think that Keen is... I don't know, Keen is just MVP for me. That's how far I want to go. The 3 carry games he did against, of course, you know, anyone's legend is just insane. Absolutely insane levels of play. My second guy would be just Flandre. I think Flandre, even in that series, had very good moments, like his Rumble was insane. I think that Flandre has been very competitive. That's why Keen, even more impressive that he pulls off the Gwen and the Camille and does it against very, very tough opposition, you know? I think Keen as well in that series against G2 was also tremendous. Absolutely tremendous. Flandre is second for me. Third, this is where it gets interesting, because honestly, it's like Doran, it's like the names that are left. We need to put Driver in the conversation too. Driver has been pretty fucking good as well. And I think that Doran, even though it's a good team fighting, especially in game 2 and game 3 against Bilibili, he did have a little bit of a lackluster series, I would say. I do think, like on the Yorick game, he was getting kind of farmed. And I think that, you know, the Ornn game as well, Yorick Ornn, but his Renekton game was really insane. He got a crazy flank. His Ornn team fighting was pretty damn good. Driver completely dumpstered Koi, but how much value can really put on that? Because in the end, Doran was pretty damn good in the series against CFO as well. And I think that is what needs to be put into consideration. Let's just extend this to 4. Why not? Even we can even do 5. I'm under the weather, so maybe I'm going to be slower than usual. But you know how it is. You know how it is. 4, 5. Okay. So Driver would be 4, and then I guess I'll put Bin here, you know. Bin has been quite disappointing to me. I think that his read on what champions to play Ambessa, Rumble. I said it ahead of the tournament. Please don't play this. Please don't play this. I'm begging you. Please, please don't play this. And that's it. I think Driver has stood out as the stronger player in my mind in comparison to rest. And I think this would be, my ordering. Special shout out to Kiaya, honestly. Kiaya was really good. I think Kiaya was also really, really good. And I think he would be like next in line. Kiaya really tried to carry Gam, but somehow, Kiaya deserves praise. Jungle. I think Owner was good. I do think that Canyon and Tarzan stood above everybody else just a little bit, I think Owner in the second series completely aura farmed. Like the second series against Billy, I think Owner was my MVP. Like he was so insane and so sturdy with the smites, with the setups, with the team fighting. I just never felt when Owner was approaching an objective that they would lose. Just based on how he was playing and how much aura he had. I think Canyon had some moments where he got caught out, against AL, but I think all across the board, pretty damn solid performance. And then, it's a question of, it's like, it gets hard. It's like the easy choice is to go with Owner, right? But Junjia has been pretty damn good too. Where like Junjia has been good, Inspired's been good, Junjia has been an absolute monster. Junjia has been absolutely insane at this tournament. Like Junjia deserves praise. I think in that series between Owner and Junjia got the upper hand in a lot of these games. And I think the entry into Game 5 was just not there for Junjia. But Owner was so dominant in the series against Billy that I just need to give him some love here, And then Inspired would be my fifth guy here. Like I think Inspired, Junjia, we are just so blessed at this tournament. It's like we are so blessed at this tournament with the jungle pool because there is movability here, There's definitely movability here. Someone in the chat said, bro, no way of trying to make an argument for Junjia over Owner. The thing is, Owner was pretty quiet, I think, in their matchup. Like, if we look at the head-to-head, I think Junjia did so much work in that series to make it competitive. And I think that that's important to highlight. I think Owner's Billy series is really what wants me to put him on 3 here. I don't think Owner was... Like, I think the CFO T1 series was competitive because I do think by the standard of Owner and Keria, they didn't perform as good as they need to if they want to have chances to win this tournament. Or no, I think Junjia has been so sharp in terms of how he plays out his early games, and he just has such a range of play. Yeah, Inspired completely took a big dump on G2, definitely. Which is, once again, I repeat, that's the difficulty of doing this mid-series is that, they had different opponents. Different matchups is not the easiest, list to make, Just keep this in mind, Keep this in mind. Inspired did play well in 2000, yeah. He did. He did play well in 2000, And that Viego game is like one of those games that just got away, Like he had a very good Viego game, made that game very competitive. But also, I would say that AL looked a lot better in their second series than in the first series. In no world is Tarzan better than Owner. We're talking about the performance. I'm going to repeat this one final time. This is... Like, I can't even put it there. This is the performance of the players at this tournament. I don't know, maker of show 332, you are just a blind delusional T1 fan. Like, I'm not going to put... in terms of mid lane, I think that the best performing mid lane so far has been Shanks. think Shanks has been the best performing mid laner, and the second best performing mid laner, in my opinion, has been Honkyu. I think they have just been insane throughout. They have just been insane throughout. It's just, it's always going to be, you know, you're going to fall under fire with these type of lists, because people can't understand the nuance of performance at a tournament. It doesn't mean that Honkyu is better than Chovy, Shanks is better than Chovy. It's just a question of how good you've performed here. In terms of who's next, like let's throw up some candidates, right? It's like, I think Chovy has been solid. It's like Chovy hasn't been bad, but he hasn't been Chovy, right? So it's not like Chovy is in the toilet. It's just that Chovy hasn't been as good as we expected him to be. But if we think about that, I think it's important to highlight Faker. I think Faker had a very bad series against CFO. Very bad series against CFO. Against Billy, he was good. The Orianna game was really damn good. Victor game was solid. I think Riot's game was middling, but his series against CFO was a rough one. You know, that was like a rough one. Like it was like his series against CFO was just not good, in my opinion. It just wasn't good. Knight deserves a shout. I think Knight was very elo held in the series. It's like Knight was playing weaker matchups. He was playing weaker matchups, and he was trying, in my opinion, the Tyler game was trying, the Ari game was trying really, really hard. But it was just overall freaking team gap, you know? And Faker was playing Victor into Annie, which is a good matchup for Victor. Orianna into Talia, which is a good matchup into Orianna. And Knight was basically together with Caps, you know, I feel like both of them just had no teammates. I think both of them just had no teammates. So in terms of the ordering here, this is where it gets tricky. It's hard for me to put Faker high based off that CFO series. It's like, I think Knight deserves props. Sincerely, I think Knight deserves props. I think even that T1 series, he played decent, in my opinion. I don't think that he played bad. And Faker took a fat shit on Knight. That's really not how it went down, in my opinion. I don't think that it went down that way. Is this raw performance? It's just raw performance. I think Knight was just alone. I think Knight and Caps were just alone on the Rift, bro. Alone. It's always the same. It's like the people that are going to say the Faker shat on Knight, in the same vein, like you are just removing from the context of the game. And Owner was 10 times the jungler, Carrier was 10 times the support, Bin was not online, you know. It's just all of these things matter, and matchups matter too. Yeah, Bin was burning force, man. Bin was straight up burning force. This one is hard. This one's hard for me. Caps had decent series against Fly, decent series against Genji, but he also had moments where he got caught. Like he wasn't, you know, super sound Caps, you know. Chovy, I think, was solid. Because it's like looking at the games, right? I think the Orianna game from Faker was insane. I think that was the best game he played all year long. 100%. And then for me, it's just Faker's CFO performance drags it down here for me. That's the main thing for me. Yeah, for sure. Faker's Orianna game was one of the best mid performances of the tournament, for sure. Yeah. You aren't taking into account that Billy were perma-targeting Faker and still overperformed Knight. I think, like, just looking back at the conditions of the game, right? It's like Billy versus T1 game 1, for example. It's like this game, I 100% agree. This was, for me, the best Faker performance of the entire year. for sure. For me, this was the best performance from Faker the entire year. There was only like that one crucial moment, right, where he died on mid. And it's like, we are talking about targeting, but it goes both ways, you know? It's like, Knight has his flash burnt, he's playing against Pantheon jungle, he's playing a weaker matchup. It like goes both ways. I really think that Knight really had a cap situation, but for some reason people just love to shit on Knight because he's from LPL, you know? It's it was in the end, it was the kill on Faker, right, with the gank from Renata, which I think provided relief, right? I think eventually it happens. Trying to remember the exact moment. This was a massive Orianna ult, right, from Faker. This was fucking vicious, delicious. But it's just isolating and talking about where was the when people say such grand statements as he took a big shit on him. It's just it's a bit too harsh, I think. And then this, yeah, we are speechless over this, you know. Like Faker should die here, right? Definitely, if they just play that together well. And then I don't know, YamatoCannon decided, or Elk decided, we're gonna punish our teammates and we're just gonna go until we die. I don't know, this is just the most disgusting thing I've seen all year long. Yeah, Faker was just aura farming. It was like when Faker was farming fish in a barrel on top. That was such a crazy situation. Was it here? It was here, right? Yeah, this was so nuts. This was absolutely nuts. That's the one. Game 2. Game 2, I think it was one of the weaker games from Knight for sure. It's like they made a play on bottom side, right, and then they extended. They extended after the play on bot, and he couldn't find the right snaps. In my opinion, like here it was after they use ults and they keep extending on bot, and then off of the TPs, after bin TP stop, they get TP'd on bot, and I think Annie dies here, which was really costly, you know? Like this was a big mistake. But this is just Billy macro, right? This is Billy macro, and this is a really good punish from T1. And then they just set the pacing of the whole game and really leverage the fact that enemy used Annie and Wukong ult on Ornn, right? And then it was that fight on Drake where the turn didn't come through. Because here too, it's like on paper this play is good, but then they tried to kill Faker. And he just fucking lives, because Ornn just snap TP'd and just commit to the play, which is, I don't know, like most teams here are gonna be like, alright, Xin Zhao's dead, run, retreat, and then they just snap TP and fight back. It's this is the beauty of T1, right? But I didn't walk away from this series feeling like Knight was the problem. Like, I think Knight was the only one really trying to be a solution, if anything. I think Knight was the only one really playing. And then there was, let me just check this. What did Knight do here? Because he just doesn't have flash. Oh wait, is this the one where Faker starts to fight with his face and they win? I think this is the fight that Faker says. I think Faker just says any fight is winning. Let me just fucking walk in here. And it's like if you have a Rise game, you're dropping 7 deaths, or you're playing Silas and you get you know, this condition. T1 was a CFO game 4. Like this game, for example, you have the situation where Faker is playing a matchup where Cassius uses a counter. They pull up with the gank setup, which was super nice. And Faker then rolled into top because of the tempo that he had, which was super insane. Like, this is fucking goated shit, right? Really good. This matchup is unplayable for Silas. It's not unplayable. Like, it's definitely not unplayable. And it's definitely playable if you burn Cassius flash and Javan kills, you know? I guess just that I think it's a bad shaping of narrative where you can't say that someone underperforms, because the fact that he comes out in game 1 and drops a fucking great Oriana game, that's that the narrative that he was always good and everyone that criticizes gameplay is just silliness, you know. It's just, I think it just paints a very, very bad picture, you know. 80 carries. So who do we have? I think Ruler has been good. Like, Ruler has not been bad. I think his game 1s in both series that he's played were not the greatest. I think Gumayushi like plays his usual champs when he's playing Varus is tremendous. I think Hope is the one that has done the most amount of gliding. All right, like if I think about the gliding that has been happening, Hope and Dogo did the most amount of gliding by far. He's doing a shit ton of gliding. What do you mean by gliding? It's like fucking montage shit, you know? Like really, really montage shit on the Kaiser. Like really, really dropping mean stuff. The funny part about, yeah, you know, I think Ruler in the first series against G2 was insane. But it turned, yeah, but then again, it's like he was getting free fed and he was in good conditions. Dogo, I feel like Dogo has been good throughout, you know? Like I have very little complaints about Dogo, you know? Like Dogo has been doing so well. Like, can I put him first? It's like Hope had the bad opening game on Xayah, you know? Bad opening game on Xayah, but then like kicked into gear, I think, when it came to things. I think Gumayushi serves a very specific role on this team, which isn't as flashy, but it's still very important. Like if we look at how Gumayushi and what he has played so far in this tournament, I think the main thing is, right, it's like his Varus games look insane. Scaling game was solid. Jhin, like these are the classics, right? He slammed the Jinx. I think that game was decided because Doran just knocked people to pieces. He had the Kalista game. Everybody loses on Kalista. But that was like the invitation to see if the enemy team is you know, capable of playing other things than melee supports, and they did, right? And that's the one where Dogo had a turbo Lucian performance with the Nami, and CFO just kind of slammed T1 into the ground. The Corki game was pretty damn good. I got worried because I got Corki flashbacks to the regular split, but I thought the Corki game was good. I think Gumayushi is so good at fulfilling the role that T1 need. I think he offers stability, safety, and consistency, you know? And I think that's a very, very good thing for them, you know? I think the focal points of this team lie in jungle and support because of course, they are just so damn good, Honor and Carrier, and I think that's where their ceiling raises and ceiling lowers. I think it's just a question of flavors. I think Gumayushi has been very consistent. I think Hope and Dogo, they did the most amount of gliding. I think Ruler's up there too. I think the pool of ADs, I think it's just a question of flavor. I think Dogo in the series against T1 was pretty damn good, which I think is impressive. And then he took a big shit on Koi too. Like that Aphelios lock-in was delicious, man. Was really, really delicious. Hope had a slow start, but then I think he did some gliding, even against Genji, which I think is, you know, was impressive. In terms of the ordering, I think it's just a question of flavors, you know, really, really a question of flavors. And then finally, Hansama. I'm kidding. Honestly, Artemis was kind of fucking good too. I think he was also elo held together with Kiaya. Have you seen Gumayushi into shit out of the game like Ruler or Hope did in the past? I have, yeah. I have seen Gumayushi into a lot of games, and that's okay. I know what he's capable of, but I also know that you know, he's not a machine. He's a human. He's a human being, you know. But Elk is weird. I feel like Elk I will probably put Elk over Masu. Where would Smash be on the list? Bro, Smash is not playing at this tournament. Gumayushi always shows up when it matters. It's very convenient. Elko Vemasu is foul after his games against T1. I think he had a good Ezreal game. I think that game one is just... Yeah, the game one is crazy. It's very hard to forget. It's very, very hard to forget that game one. But I think that Elk was solid throughout the tournament. That game one is hard to forget. Definitely. But it's not like Masu has been super clean at this tournament. Like if Masu was playing as good as he did at Worlds last year, then I think it you know, fair play. I think people would be surprised about how much T1 players care about winning every game they play. Like, I think Masu hasn't had like the best tournament individually, even though I think he's capable. Elk in the lead up, I think had a good Ezreal game. Like even in that same Kalista game, guys, even in that same Kalista game, they were doing well. I know it's a weird point to make, but they were doing so well until they just decided that the game needs to end right now. And they were doing so well, you know? Like, they got the triple kill on the play. They were playing a hard matchup with the Renata into the Nico. And they were doing so well until he just sent it. You want to put Elk last place on everything due to this play? I get it. It was complete Lila, but she... It's crazy. All right. Keria. I think Keria... Honestly, if Keria didn't fucking play as good as he did in game 4-5, I think they would have lost against CFO, bro. He was insane. I think, like, if you look at the 5 last games that Keria played, he was doing shit that you couldn't fucking take away from anybody, you know? I don't know, putting Dogo up there feels so strange. It just feels so weird. Is Dogo really the #1 performer in AD role? I don't know, Dogo's been insane, no? Dogo was so good against T1. I think Dogo has been insane. Dogo has been so good, bro. He's been gliding. He's really been gliding. And then second, bro. I have to put Duro, man. Duro has been so good. Duro has been insane. Like Duro has arguments to even be first, by the way. Like Duro has been so good. Like Duro could be first. This is close, in my opinion. Really close. How was Dogo when he played in LPL? Bro, he was the lock screen GOAT, bro. He wasn't that good. I think you can put Duro top. Whole tier list is rage bait. Okay. And then we're putting Labrov. I think next in line is just Kael. What does gliding mean? Is it some new word shit which it came up with for MSI? No, gliding means like you're mechanically like pumping, you know? Like you're playing something like Kaiser and you're really squeezing. Like I can give you an example. Genji versus AL game 1. This is someone gliding. Like you can't be gliding on Lethality Varus. Like the best gliding you can do is let me show you guys. I think it's the Rift Herald fight, right? Let me find maybe this fight. Is it this fight? Yeah, this for example. Ooh, pew, 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 pew. Pew. Look at the squeeze on the W dodge as well. Ooh. That's some gliding, bro. That's some gliding right there. That's gliding. Okay. Who do we put next? Kaiwing, honestly, Kaiwing has been pretty fucking good on the melee supports, man. He deserves some praise because he's fucking catching people on side lanes. I think he has really good engage angles. He's a very classic man as a support, you know, very classic support. I think Kaiwing gets a shout out. Definitely. Kaiwing gets a shout out. Kiaya is not... He's a top laner. He's a top laner, my friend. Then finally... I don't know. Finally, it's just... I don't know. On also wasn't the biggest problem in that series that they played against T1. I don't know. I think Bin and On wasn't that great in that series now. Bilibili was just, I don't know, Bilibili just got so completely out macroed, you know? So it's hard to pin it to few people. Like, it's just, they got completely out macroed. But then we had like On playing Gragas. Like, why was he playing Gragas? Why were we playing Xayah Gragas in game? Like, what was that, bro? Like, T1 out macroed them in such brutal ways. It was so brutal how they out macroed them. It's like Bilibili was never on time, never based, never in sync. TPs used left and right. Like, they are. It's just, I don't know. Bilibili is a strange one. Bilibili is a strange one. Alvaro was pretty damn good in that series, but on was also good in that Koi series. Yeah. Busio hasn't been super clean. Alvaro had some rough games too. It's just doing mid MSI tier lists is not a good idea, guys. This is just an easy way to get comments about how crazy things have been, you know. In terms of where we're at meta-wise as well, I think there's definitely champions that stand out as very weak. I think something that I broke down ahead of the tournament is I did mention that I think teams with great individual players that can play a multitude of styles, that's just very, very OP. Very, very OP, in my opinion, in the context of course, Fearless. Anybody that can play a wide range of styles is going to be really, really, really good, you know? I think when you look at anyone's legend, they are capable of playing multiple styles, but the main flaw is that they can't play carry stop. T1 somehow have figured out to actually be successful with carry stop, and that's what's so impressive about the run-up in Hanwha Life, right? I think that part is very impressive. Genji, I think they can play any style. I don't think that's their biggest advantage, is that they can load into games and they can play compositions that I think a lot of other teams are not going to be capable of playing. There's some champions that stand out that are just losing every game. I think TF has never been paired with a composition that makes sense. I think TF is very nuanced, because I think that in scrims, people get fake data from scrims because you are porting and getting kills and whatever, but TF is supposed to be a neutralizer. He loses most mid lane matchups. There's almost no matchups that he should win. I think it comes down to if you are playing compositions that are mid range and you can play around card and rally around it, like with a Cho'Gath, then I think it's solid. Then it's good. Or if you're playing something like, let's say you're playing Pantheon, TF, Gwen. It's like you can support the Gwen to transition herself to the point where she's very strong in the game, and then it makes sense. But I feel like TF is often paired with the wrong champions. I think it's just that's the main issue. Flyquist almost beat AL in that one game with the Viego lock-in, but I think even that draft was pretty difficult. If we think back to the TF game that Genji won, right? That was with Senna, Cho'Gath, Lee Sin. It's like every card was meaningful, and the enemy team didn't have a hard enough engage to pressure the TF. And I think that's what's so crucial, you know? I don't like the spots Shen is picked in. Wasn't there only one Shen at this tournament? And that was a pretty good Shen game into TF, and they stomped because Drive was good on it. And then there was the Shen support that was completely disgusting. Yeah, the Shen super was really bad. The Shen super was really bad. That was a straight up Animal Planet draft. Like if we look at teams in terms of where they are prep wise, it's like in terms of the drafts that I enjoy the most. If I have to look at the preparationary work, AL had this disgusting game. Like they just drafted the whole zoo, and this one is hard to look past. I think Genji Game 5 here were really good, really clever about it. This was a little bit too all over the place. I thought they would win here, honestly. I thought they would win, but Caitlyn Karma couldn't get ahead enough. And I thought that Smolder would get farmed. Like AL, especially T1 as well against Billy. Billy had a very good read. I think that, yeah, honestly, the teams that are left are just the ones with good reads. The teams that are left are just the ones with good reads, honestly. It's like Billy, G2. Like they were the dirty pigs, you know? These were the dirty pigs. Did Bwipo play Shen? Did Bwipo play Shen? Oh, he did play Shen. Guys, back in Season 3, we had a rule that we would never play Shen Ziggs together. That was a rule. That rule still applies to this day, bro. This was a horrible Shen game to play, I think. You're playing Shen with Ziggs Nautilus bot. You have nothing to offer, bro. Nothing to offer. Here I think Cho'Gath makes more sense than Shen. I don't think TF Shen is a good comp. And I think picking Shen like CFO did, I think makes a lot of sense. Like this game, this game, the Shen here into TF and Bessa, I think makes a lot of sense. Inspire was saying that if you think draft was an issue, you don't have eyes. Like, yeah, they could win this game. But that doesn't mean that we can't break it down and optimize. I think you can optimize the 4-5 bands, definitely. You don't need to pick Alistar this way, right? You can optimize this draft, definitely. The Shen game, this draft is disgusting. Like, they are never, ever going to play this draft again. They are never going to play this draft again, I assure you. He said it's good. Well, I think that's delusional. Like, I don't care. This is just insanely trash. I think no one wants to play this draft on right side. But I can't confirm if he said this or not. But this is really bad. Game 3, maybe. But even this, I think, is kind of fucking hard when you're playing Jhin against Sion Braum and the enemy has Wukong, Azir, Varus. I think they have like good engage, good force. They scale well. I think FlyQuest drafted way better in their second series in comparison to this one, but yeah, we were back. We're back to the conversation about like the Bard was very greedy, but Busio is a gold Bard. But yeah, let's just take a look. The final thing we can do. Let's take a look at the next matchup. What is the next matchup? My main concern is CFO with Driver is like a baby anyone's legend. I think the main strength that AL have over these guys is the fact that I think that AL is much better at setting the pacing of the game. I think AL should be favored. I think CFO is too much of a mirror, you know? Too much of a mirror of what AL is. It's like demon jungler that can play everything. You have, like another detail is that I think that Kael is much better on range supports than Kaiwing. But Kaiwing has a secret trash lock-in, of course. I do think that AO should win this one. I think they should be favored. But it's remarkable how similar CFO is in terms of their strengths if they play Driver. Because Driver is like a Flandre archetype player. And I think what they are offering here is a miniature version of what AL is. I think AL just play higher level macro. They set pacing better in the game. And it's just, this is going to be the series with the two best performing mid laners at this tournament, which is super exciting. Honkyu versus Shanks is going to be a giga banger. Like that in itself is really, really exciting. Dogo versus Hope, Driver versus Flandre, Tarzan versus Junjia. Like this is a golden matchup. But I do have to say that I think that AL should come out ahead. I think they have a little bit more depth in not only top lane. If you only look at Driver, obviously they can switch out players left and right. I think Tarzan is just a little bit more sharp than Junjia as well. But I think the main question here is, it's like AO showcased that there are times where they could play worse. I think that they haven't shown the precision of their jungle support at the highest level that they can show just yet. So maybe there's an opportunity there, but yeah, I think it's going to be very hard for CFO to win a series, man. I think just AL is just a slightly better version of everything CFO is currently. You know, that's my take. You know, CFO is baby AL. Really, they are really baby AL with Driver. So that's it.